Example 1 has to do with the midpoint. So let's look at the notes slide first. It tells us here that a midpoint of a segment is the point that divides the segment into two congruent segments. We know that congruent segments are segments that have the same length. So basically what we're doing is we're taking the segment and we're splitting it in half. The midpoint is going exactly in the middle of that segment. So we have an example on here, P and Q. So we have segment PQ. If you look at the x coordinates here, 4 and -2, what's halfway between 4 and -2? That's going to be 1. And then if you look at the y coordinates, halfway between 2 and -2 is going to be 0. So our midpoint here would be 1, 0. So segment PM would be congruent to segment MQ. These two pieces here would be the same length. Right? PM would be the same length as MQ. Right? If we look at how it's formally written out in notation form, we use M to represent the midpoint. The notation I'm going to use for the x coordinate is going to be x sub m. So that's the x coordinate of the midpoint. That's what the m's for. And then comma, and then you need the y coordinate of the midpoint. Okay, so x sub m, comma y sub m. And then they write it out with the formulas for each. So in order to find the x coordinate, you have to take the average of the x values. So here the average of your x values would be the two x values would be -2 and 4. So we're going to take the average of that. So -2 plus 4. And then we're going to divide by 2. If we stay with that x coordinate, -2 plus 4 is going to be 2. 2 divided by 2 is going to give us a 1. Our y coordinate then, let's do it a different color. Okay, our y coordinates are -2 and 2. So we would do -2. Again, we're just adding them together, finding the average. -2 plus 2 divided by 2. Okay, -2 plus 2 is 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So then our y coordinate would be 0. So that would be how you would find the midpoint there. So we're taking the average of the x values, right? The endpoints, the average of the x coordinates of the endpoints. That'll give you the x coordinate for the midpoint. We're taking the average of the y coordinates of the endpoints, and that'll give you the y coordinate of the midpoint. All right, let's look at the example question. Right, we want to know the midpoint of presumably AB here. So if we look at our formula, we need to find the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So I'm going to do the x coordinate first. So the x coordinate is going to be x1 plus x2 divided by 2. Okay, so our x coordinate of our midpoint is going to be equal to our two x values added together. The sum of the two x coordinates of the endpoints divided by 2. So -3 and 4. And then divide by 2. So that's going to give us -3 plus 4 is 1. 1 divided by 2 is simply 1/2. Okay, now we have to find the y coordinate of our midpoint. So that's going to be y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Our two y coordinates are 2 and -2. So that's going to be 2 plus -2. Right? 2 plus -2, which is the same as 2 minus 2, and 2 minus 2 is going to be 0. So then 0 divided by 2 is going to give us 0. So the key here then is to remember that our midpoint is a point, so it has coordinates. So we have to make sure we put not just this answer, we have to write it as a coordinate in our graph here. So 1/2 comma 0, And that looks like it's about right. If you look at the graph, it should be about right there. 1/2 comma 0 looks about halfway between. We can also click solution to make sure we did it right. And we do. We have 1/2 comma 0 as our midpoint. Right, you guys can now do the try it.